Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. And we're going to get rid of the administrative stuff first, and then we're going to get right into it because I don't want to make this terribly long. And this is one of the few shows that I actually have typewritten notes. It's only 4 pages and all kinds of exhibits. The paralegal in me is like, I did my brief, I got my exhibits, Your Honor. But this is just so I don't forget anything. I'm not going to read a script. If I ever do a completely scripted show, it will be pre-recorded. The beauty of live is that you get it, warts and all, and I've gotten pretty good at just extemporaneously talking. Live has been like so beneficial for that. But let's do the YouTuber stuff first. If you are new, or even if you're not new and you're not subscribed yet, I just broke 6,000 subscribers. So exciting. If you're not one of them, will you please become one of them? It does not cost you anything, and I'd also appreciate a like or even a dislike on the video. Interaction is interaction. You know, on my Matt Walsh videos, some of these Matt Walsh trolls think they're like, I don't know what they think they're doing, but they're like, oh, you can't trust someone with pink hair. And I'm thinking to myself, ka-ching, thanks for the engagement. YouTube doesn't care. The same thing happened on TikTok earlier today. And my TikTok is starting to really get traction. So on my TikTok earlier today, somebody commented just something insulting, like, get off my TikTok feed, you heretic, or something like that. That might have actually been an exact quote. And someone responded, you know, by responding to her, TikTok's just going to feed you more videos like that. And I was like, that's exactly it. It is so perfect. So please do subscribe. I appreciate it. And I know what you guys subscribe to because Wayne watches my channel a lot, and he had his YouTube up in the living room. And when he was doing a search, it said, subscribers or viewers of Pink Flame of Liberty also watch. So I know what you guys watch. And some of it is really weird, but you go you know, fly your freak flag. You can also follow me on Twitter. Twitter's been blowing up, hit 21,000 followers there. I said subscribers, but followers. And I follow back. I am a follow back girl, even though it is bananas. I am a follow back girl. And last but not least, certainly not least, this channel always appreciates your support. Patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. I have expanded like the type of topics I cover, but still, you know, one of the few channels, not the only channel, but one of the few channels that really does LP inside baseball. DL Cummings does as well. That's pretty much his regular rotation. So if you enjoy that type of content, please go check out Liberty Dad on YouTube as well. Okay, this is an insult to the Pez community was actually a great comment by Matt Walsh. Matt is actually funny. I don't agree with him, but he's funny. When that person was like saying, I don't like people who wear plaid, and he's like, as a person of plaid, a member of the plaid community, as it were, and I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. Okay, all super chats matter, all super thanks matter, Pink Flame, tinyurl.com/Pink Flame merch, and that is it for all of the promo stuff. We are going to get right into it now, and I am just pulling up my notes so I can make sure that I don't miss anything. Alrighty, so first of all, I realize in the title of this video, and by the way, I've got my beverage. The title of this video may get some interested viewers who aren't involved in the Libertarian Party, particularly because this is an election year, who might expect this to be answering a more meta-narrative question on what third parties in general have to offer, because a lot of people are really butthurt, particularly conservatives are really butthurt, thinking we steal their votes. This is not going to scratch that itch, though it will be of interest to those who just like hearing about the workings of a prominent American third party, even if it's not particularly the Libertarian Party. So the primary audience for this video is other Libertarian Party members, particularly those who are more involved than just voting Libertarian or just being registered Libertarian. So people who are into the sausage being made. Whether they want to eat the resulting sausage or not is an entirely different matter. So by any metric, I'm a Libertarian Party insider. I also am generally regarded as someone with knowledge of the ideological history and working of the party, though I certainly learn more day after day. And I am very uncomfortable with the characterization that some people make of me, that they consider me a subject matter expert when it comes to the ideological history of the party. I'm not comfortable with that. There is so much still to learn, and sometimes I find out I'm wrong on things, and I come to this channel and say it, but I do know more than the average bear about this topic, and as an autistic person, and this is my special interest, I do bring a lot of weaponry, my weaponized autism, to this conversation. Now, this certainly doesn't mean I'm right, but it does mean that I think I've earned the right to at least be listened to and considered. I think that's fair. So what is the dispute? Well, I'm going to paraphrase, and at first I said when I was going to do this video, I wasn't going to mention any names, but I am actually only going to mention one names. Other names aren't important. But this subject came up again recently because a big name in our party, Justin Amash, revisited this issue. And it's a favorite topic of his. And the fact that Justin Amash said it is actually relevant. Not the least because of the respectability factor he brings with it. But to be clear, he's not alone, nor is his view a recent view in the party, though he is relatively recent to the party. So his view is that the only, or at least the primary purpose, to the point that it might as well be only purpose of any political party, including the Libertarian Party, is to elect candidates. Yes, I realize that's somewhat simplified, but I think it's fair. And that the purpose of the party is not activism. That activism should be left to other organizations. I absolutely couldn't disagree more. But this isn't a matter of my disagreement. It's a matter of what is the actual purpose of the party. People can think it should change. They can advocate for it to change. That's not what this show is about. This show is about what it is, whether you like it or not. You know, to cop my Ben Shapiroism, history does not care about your feelings. Bylaws do not care about your feelings. Now, Justin Amash's view has always existed in the party, but it's never, ever been the majority view of the party. And I'm going to bring in one of my odd analogies. A lot of you know that I'm a Christian author. Some of you do not know that I'm a Christian author. And I wrote a book on eschatology. I know that's like a $10 word. It means it's a study of the end times. And for those of you who are into Christian eschatology, if you want to know my point of view, I'm a post-millennial Orthodox preterist, thank you very much, and also a Molinist if you want to know my soteriology. Anyway, that is a very minority view of Scripture. And when I first came to my conclusions, I didn't lightly point to the vast majority of people who disagreed with me and just scream, "You are all just wrong." And little old me found out and thought of something that the majority of you just never saw. Now, of course, there were like the merry band of minority people that agreed with me, but I was very, very cautious. When you think of something that most other people foundationally disagree with, and they've been the dominant view, caution is warranted, and that includes with libertarianism, by the way. You should never be so arrogant. Yay, another Molinist is in the chat. We're rare unicorns, my friend. So caution is warranted when you find yourself in an extreme minority review. But then I found that commentators way back to the early church history agreed with me on many eschatological points. And then I wrote an entire book on this topic, by the way, talk about weaponized autism. I spent 10 years writing a commentary on Matthew 24. It, last I heard, was still required reading in an eschatology course at Liberty University. Anyway, I did find that there were commentators, respected commentators, that agreed with me all the way back to the beginning of church history. And what I did then is went on to at least, I think satisfactorily, prove my view using a hermeneutical understanding of the text in the original context. And what is hermeneutics, for those of you who aren't, deep into Christian stuff? Though that word isn't strictly a Christian word, it is the art and science of interpreting texts, particularly ancient texts. And you can't understand ancient texts if you don't try to read it as its original audience would have read it, not a modern reader. While this point today is not about religion or scripture, I do think lessons could be drawn from the fact that I am self-trained in hermeneutics. And I think that's actually what got me interested in parliamentary procedure, because I think a lot of parliamentary procedure is hermeneutics. So, what did the original audience think in the founding of the party? Doesn't mean that has to stay the same. Benjamin, I am an orthodox preterist. I refuse the term partial preterist. I'm not partial anything, but it would be in the more popular parlance considered a partial preterist. But I prefer the word orthodox because I don't hold to historically heretical views. So what was thought of in the founding of the party, just like what would Jesus's original audience have thought when he was talking to them. So let's go back to the foundation of the party and then work forward. Was getting people elected the primary or even a major purpose in the founding of this party? And we do know, because we have a foundational text from the primary founder of the party, David Nolan, who told us why he was forming a Libertarian Party. Would you like to take a look at that? I would like to take a look at it, and it just so happens I have it. So here we go. He wrote this in July, August of 1971. And remember, the party's official birthday is December 10th, 71, but it wasn't founded with the name Libertarian Party until January 72. In either event, this is before that. The case for a libertarian political party. We're not going to read the whole article, but we are going to go to the second page where he gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it starts with the page before. So he gives his reasons. He says, first, and perhaps most important, we will be able to get a great deal more news coverage for ourselves and our ideas than we would have ever gotten before. So he saw the politics almost as a front to get more news coverage. And that's what Arvin Vohra said. He said, if you run as a candidate, even if you're not going to win, if you play your cards right, could get about $100,000 worth of press for free because you're running as a candidate, even though you know damn well you're not going to win. So he said, public interest in political issues and philosophies at an all-time high, and so on and so forth. Okay. Where's the second reason? It says, as a consequence of this fact, we'll reach more people than we usually do. Okay, that's the second reason. Third, we'll be able to get some idea of how much support we have, because an election is like a poll. Fourth, a libertarian political party would provide a continuing focal point for libertarian activity, something that one-shot projects do not provide. That is in combination with the others. Can you knock down each of these one at a time? Yes. But this is a cumulative case. Fifth, talks about a coalition between the libertarian left and the libertarian right. 6 is that its mere existence will put pressure on the other parties to take a more libertarian stand. And then it's not even a numbered point. It's almost an afterthought. And finally, there's always the possibility that we might actually get some libertarians elected. So obviously, getting people elected was not David Nolan's primary goal. Running candidates was part of a larger goal of getting the word out and converting people. David Nolan really believed that politics was a lagging indicator of social change that has already taken place. Most of the early party believed that we were a social movement disguised as a political party and often called us an anti-political party. All right, so now we know what David Nolan said. But something I'm going to tell you, there was something else he said in this article, which a gotcha, somebody might say, is he said winning in the sense of electing someone to office is not the only reason for having a political party. So David Nolan directly contradicts Justin Amash. And excuse me, I'm going to trust the founder of the party. But then he goes on to say, especially in the short-term sense. So someone can go, aha! That was just in the short term. We're definitely on the long term right now. But nothing has changed profoundly in the original reasons that would change the reasons for the existence of the party. And David Nolan, actually, there's a letter I did not pull up, but you can look it up on Elpedia. It's called the Monday Message. He excoriated an LNC for getting off track as to what the purpose of the party was. And I'm actually going to see if I can find this. I did a whole video on it, by the way. But I'm going to try to find it. If I can't really quickly, we will not. Here it is, July 17th, 2009, a letter from David Nolan to the LNC on party principles. So, he says, as I see it, the Libertarian Party has gone far astray from its original mission. Oh, David thought it had an original mission? Somewhere along the way, our commitment to being the party of principle was replaced by a shallow, opportunistic goal of winning elections now. Any election, anywhere. Principles be damned, according to the proponents of this vision. We should back off from scary positions, tone down our rhetoric, find out what voters want, and tailor our message to what they want to hear. The nadir of this mindset was reached in a Monday message dated March 9th, 2009. It carried the heading, "The most important principle is winning." I would be hard put to come up with a statement more antithetical to our beliefs and what? Purpose. Just for starters, winning is not a principle at all. It might be a goal or a strategy for achieving our goals, but it is not a principle. And if it were, it's not our principle. This is pure opportunistic rubbish, exactly what you'd expect from a Republican or Democratic Party hack. So David rebuked when he thought the leadership was going astray from our purpose, and he said what our purpose actually is. Okay, now these reasons that are the backdrop for the formation of this party will help us understand the party governing documents that talk about this. Because ultimately it's the governing documents that are determinative if they actually speak to this issue. And in fact, they do. The at issue purposes statement has always existed in the bylaws since 1972, though it has gotten expanded over the years. So let's pull up the 1972 bylaws, and we're going to be jumping around a bit. And it's actually not just the bylaws. I'm going to say bylaws for short. We had a constitution and bylaws, I think, till around 1980, 1981. So this is actually in the Constitution. Doesn't matter. We're just going to call it bylaws. If you see there, Article 3, purposes. The purpose for which the party is organized is to implement and give voice to the principles embodied in the Statement of Principles by A. Nominating candidates for the offices of President and Vice President of the United States and supporting candidates for political office. B. Promoting, chartering, and coordinating affiliate parties throughout the United States. And C. Entering into political information activities. It is C that has been the bone of contention. C does refer to activism that is not simply elections. Now, some people have focused on C and tried to make it mean something different. But that is absolutely missing the forest for the trees. And nearly every conversation on this issue of the purpose of the party has made this exact mistake. And that third point has been wrongfully redefined, but we are going to get into that. Give me 1 minute. So, is the purpose of the party nominating top-of-the-ticket candidates, having state affiliates, or entering into political information activities? Is that the purpose of the party? And I think most people who heard me just read that will say yes. But no. The answer is no. None of those things are ultimately the purpose of the party. Y'all skipped past the purpose of the party to get into the debate, and everyone does that. Read it again. The purpose of the party is implementing and giving voice to the principles embodied in the Statement of Principles. That is the purpose of the party. Period. End. The bylaws, or constitution in this case, then gives a way to do the thing, but those ways to do the thing are not the thing itself, because that is the purpose is the statement of principles. Anything that accomplishes that purpose can be added at any time. So our bylaws put absolute paid in 1972 to the notion that the fact that we are a political party limits in any way what we can do to sheerly electoral politics. You don't have to like it that that's what the governing documents say, but that is what they say. And as an aside, this is a good place to make the point why it's relevant that Justin Amash was arguing this. First, he completely missed that point I just made because he went on to the ABC. And to be fair, so do most party members. None of those things are the purpose. Also, I don't think Justin Amash, and maybe he does. I want to be charitable, but I'm telling you my guess, that he doesn't understand the history or importance of the statement of principle. He's new enough, and that is so unique to our party, but maybe he does, because he is like frickin' scary smart. The statement of principles is the sine qua non of our existence. And this fact, I'm not just inferring this. This is an explicit statement in a bylaw provision that has never changed except to get stronger over the lifetime of the party. Let's see if we can find it. I might need to do a word search here because it's not in the same place. Platform. Article 8, Section 1, the platform will include but not be limited to the statement of principles and the implementation of those principles contained in the statement in the form of planks. So you see the statement of principles is given primacy of place, but Section 2 is, Section 2 is what I want to get to. That first statement, the first sentence has never changed. And anyone who tells you that libertarianism cannot be defined is simply ignorant because we define it in our bylaws. The statement of principles of the platform, and we've taken out of the platform. That's the only way this has changed. It has not substantially changed. We'll be looking at current bylaws. The statement of principles of the platform affirms that philosophy upon which the Libertarian Party is founded. I think that got changed to was founded, but this is the 72 Constitution, by which it shall be sustained and through which liberty shall prevail. That is the definition and the purpose of this party. And then it goes on to say, remember this is 1972, the enduring importance of the statement of principles requires that it shall not be amended by a vote of less than 7/8 of the delegates at a regular convention, except that at the 1974 regular convention only, the statement of principles may be amended by a vote of 2/3 of the delegates. You should never put time-bound things like that in your constitution or bylaws. By the way, they should be attached as an enacting proviso. We're not going to go there. So there's other spots, and I don't know if I'm going to pull them up here because I'm looking, affiliate parties. Next, Article 10, Charter of Affiliate Parties. The Executive Committee of the party shall charter affiliate parties from those organizations requesting such status in each state and the District of Columbia. No organization shall be so charged which does not ratify the statement of principles of the party. Later, in current bylaws, I'm not sure it's in these bylaws because it deals with the development of the Judicial Committee, but certain things can be challenged on the ground that it violates the statement of principles. The statement of principles, statement of principles, statement of principles. The LP from its very founding had that in its DNA, and they are quite autistic about it, and I am very happy about that. Okay, I'm just flipping through my notes because I kind of went here. So let's go to the 1974 bylaws. And let's go down. You can see the purposes stayed the same. And I am looking for Well, actually, I just wanted to show that the purpose has stayed the same. Everything else is pretty much the same. They didn't delete that language about the 1974 convention until years after the 1974 convention. That's why you don't put time-bound things in your bylaws. But anyway, the next bylaws where there was a change that we need to talk about is 1981. And we'll get those up on the screen, but I want to look at my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Oh, okay. No, let's go back to the 1972. No, let's just stay here. Just listen to me for a second. There is something I missed. So, it's been alleged that entering into political information activities does not mean activism, but that's just unreal and contrafactual. In fairness, yes, in isolation, if you didn't know the history, perhaps one can read it that way. So you can say there are two reasonable interpretations of that phrase. But looking at it through the lens of the intent of the founder of the party, which remained the same, we saw that Monday, that email he sent in 2009, he passed away in 2010, so he remained firm in his conviction up through the end of his life. But looking at the intent of the founder and the emphasis he placed on this, that beggars belief. But just in a parliamentary sense, when a bylaw's interpretation, or a bylaw, is susceptible of two interpretations, per Roberts, which has been our parliamentary authority since the party founding, it has to be interpreted in accordance with the original intent as much as the original intent can be ascertained. Well, we just ascertained it. We have the very words of the founder and nothing from him indicating any disagreement with the first governing documents. In fact, we see that he continuously said that up through the time of his death. And he was chair, in fact, at the time that bylaw was passed, and then his wife, Susan Nolan, was chair up through 1974. So that phrase has been in the bylaws ever since. It means nothing different. It would be incumbent upon the delegates to add additional language to it or to strike it if they wished to mean something different. And they have not succeeded in do that. And it's not for lack of trying, because people have tried over the years. And it's been defeated because it's always been a minority view within the party. Now, there have been changes to the purposes statement. Things got added to the list. Another allegation is made, well, that's last on the list. Or everything except for that one thing has to do with elections. That's not entirely true, but that's also besides the point. I'm not going to say it's disingenuous because that would imply that people know the background context. To say it now, I think, would be disingenuous because David Nolan saw elections as a means for activism. He did not view the two as completely separate. But I found nothing to indicate the list is intended to indicate priority. The priority is to the statement of principles or any kind of proportional importance. And also, we forget when we're talking about these things that the National Party is a small portion of the party. And as long as state parties ratify the statement of principles, they're free to put whatever they want in their purpose statements. And I've looked through a bunch of them in preparation for the show, and they're really varied, though most of them mirror the national bylaws, but they have their own interpretive history. And one of the purposes of the National Party is to support affiliates, which includes their purpose statements, which, as long as they are consistent with the statement of principles, is part of the purpose of the party. So now we're up to the 1981 bylaws where something was changed. And I see John Stevenson says elections as a means for activism. I would refer you back to David Nolan's full exposition in The Case for a Libertarian Political Party. If you just type that in quotes and then David Nolan in Google, it'll pull it up for you. It's hosted on a bunch of sites, and it is on LPedia. So the 1981 bylaws added something to the purposes statement. It added that first thing, functioning as a libertarian political entity separate and distinct from all of other political parties or movements. Now notice it said or movements because it considered itself a movement. and we are to be separate from other political parties or movements. That would make no sense if it didn't consider itself one. However, I always say that the bylaws are kind of like a forensic record of past traumas. I am wondering what happened to make them add that. I think there probably were people that were saying we needed to endorse Republicans or support other parties, whatever. And it was made clear that no, we are our own thing. So that was changed at that time. But you shall see right underneath it that one thing I talked about, the statement of principles thing has right here in 81, it's still the same. The statement of principles affirms that philosophy, and I told you, of the platform got deleted, upon which the Libertarian Party is founded. I wonder if it still says is. I thought it said was later on. Maybe that got changed at some point. By which it shall be sustained and through which liberty shall prevail. The enduring importance of the statement of principles requires that it be amended only by a vote of 7/8 of all registered delegates at a regular convention. So it's only been amended to get stronger because if you didn't notice, in 72 it said a 7/8 votes, but it didn't say of all registered delegates. So the super quorum was not added in the beginning. It was added later. Okay, now we're going to go on to the 1996 bylaws. Let me go to my notes. The 1996 bylaws added another thing to the purposes statement. Ooh, that's really tiny. Let me see if I can see it here. It says... No, maybe it wasn't in 96 that it got added. I thought it was in 96. Well, it is in a later one we can look at. Well, let's go to Lpedia because I thought it was 96. But let's look at the 98 platform because maybe it was then, because I do want to give you this background. National Bylaws, 1998. Give me 1 second. I could have sworn it was 96. Yes. It says moving public policy in a libertarian direction by building a political party that elects libertarians. So certainly elections was one of our purposes. It's not the only purpose. So that was added. I thought it was in 96, but it looks like it was 98. Maybe my eyes were just crossing on that tiny print in the 96. Does it say that? It says nominating, chartering, entering, functioning. No. So that got added, I guess, in 98. I had the year slightly wrong. Okay, back to my notes. Now, 2018 changed the wording somewhat. And, you know, our bylaws have ping-ponged between it being a list to it being not a list. And it just drives me crazy. It's like, why make changes that just change it from bullet points to a sentence with semicolons, back to bullet points to a sentence with semicolons? But let's look at the 2018, and we're going to be talking quite a bit in 2018, because in 2018, the Statement of Principles was attempted by Joe Bishop Henchman to be removed from its primacy of purpose. Boo hiss. Now, it never got heard by the convention because it got killed ahead of time. I did a whole show on how I closed the back door on the sneaky trick people were trying to do to amend the Statement of Principles. But in order to get that heard, I had to put pressure on JBH to move it up because it was proposal number Q, and the way I got him to move it up was to reach a compromise with him on the purposes statement. So you wonder why I know the history of the purposes statement so well. And I was not going to agree to remove the Statement of Principles as the purpose of the party. And after hearing me out and getting emails, he knew he could not get that passed. He knew I would turn on the rocket boosters in defending the Statement of Principles. And at convention, when I turn on the rocket boosters, don't always win the argument, but I can get passionate about the statement of principles, and everyone knows it. So here's the 2018 bylaws. So you can see it used to say moving public policy in a libertarian direction by building a political party that elects libertarians to public office. He instead switched it around, and I thought this was actually cleaner. He put it into a bullet list. It had been a bullet list you saw in the original Constitution. I do think the bullet list is better, by the way, but those kind of formatting changes don't waste convention's time on that. But anyway, he changed it to electing libertarians to public office to move public policy in a libertarian direction. I actually think that's a much better wording, and it says our purpose in electing libertarians, and that became relevant. Well, actually, it was relevant. You know, want to know what I think might have prompted this? Now I'm getting my memory. In Nevada, there was someone, I forgot what party he was. I think it was Republican. And he switched to Libertarian. And I think it was while he was in office. And then was the deciding vote on funding, using stolen funds in order to build a stadium. And the LNC actually censored him. I think his name was Moore. Was it John Moore of Nevada? I think I moved the censor, and a lot of people got really upset about that, by the way. But I was like, we cannot be using our name to be funding public arenas. That is not the purpose of the Libertarian Party. I'm trying to find. I think it was it John Moore? Do you guys remember that guy? And the Nevada Party wanted us to censor him, too. I think it was John Moore. Former assemblyman, yes. No, let me see here. I can't find the censure, but it was John Moore. We can find it eventually, but we did, in fact, censure him. I'm just going to try to do one more search to see if I can find it, but if not, yes. Email ballot 2016-15, censure John Moore. Whereas Nevada Assemblyman John Moore, a former Republican who in January 2016 switched to the Libertarian Party while in office, has during the past month voted not once but twice in the span of as many days to raise taxes on his constituents, including a vote to support more cops tax, which the Libertarian Party of Nevada has tirelessly and thus far successfully opposed, and a vote to provide a $750 million subsidy to finance a billionaire-owned sports stadium at the expense of, among others, indigent persons renting weekly rooms in motels. And whereas the elected leaders of our state affiliate party in Nevada have rightfully voted to censure Assemblyman Moore for these egregious votes, and whereas we wish to convey a strong message to all and sundry that while we welcome sitting legislatures in the Republican or Democrat parties who decide to switch to the Libertarian Party as an act of conscience, we do not welcome them if they intend, as members of our party, to continue voting and acting like Republicans or Democrats. Therefore, be it resolved that the Libertarian National Committee hereby censures Assemblyman Moore for his recent votes in support of tax increases, requests that he returns the $10,000 campaign contribution which the LNC this season voted to send in, I forgot about that, and admonishes him to henceforth be a better champion of the values held by members of the political party with which he has chosen to affiliate, if he intends to remain a Libertarian. This was sponsored by myself, David Demarest, Daniel Hayes, Arvin Bohra, Starchild, Sam Goldstein, and Bill Redpath. Okay, I forgot about that vote, but this just reminded me of it. So I do think that the wording that Bishop Henchman put in here is better language, but I want to show you what he wanted to do. Okay, I didn't trust this person from this day. Look what he wanted to do. He wanted to delete, implement, and give voice to the principles embodied in the Statement of Principles. and actually do it as defend freedom and expand liberty in America as articulated by our statement of principles. Now, some people might say that is different. I mean, not much different. I actually think it's profoundly different. But he ended up giving this up, by the way. And you can see he just struck that one sentence and moved that down. Originally, I don't think, if I was on this bylaws committee, I think the original proposal that got amended in debate was going to take out the as articulated in our statement of principles, was just going to say defend freedom and expand liberty. And I think through amendments, we got it to be a little bit more palatable in case it passed. Okay, I did a minority report for, it wasn't just me, it was, obviously it can't be just me, but I joined in a minority report. Now, there's some minority reports that I did in 2018 that I don't agree with today. And there's been a lot of gotchas about that. Experience changes your views, and, you know, you don't always... you don't always stick with the views that you had many, many years ago. Now, on this particular thing, I do agree with it, but I'm trying to find, I think it's right here, the minority. Okay. I just clipped out one paragraph of the minority report, but and remember, the minority report was against the original proposal. And I quoted, and I keep saying it wasn't just me. It was many of us who well, there's only 10 people. I think there was 3 of us. I don't want to overstate my case. So it said, reading these 2 articles in tandem makes it clear that the statement of principles is the purpose of our party, not a vague political slogan that could be used by nearly any party that exists in the country, as very few are so bold to openly deny that they are destroying freedom and decreasing liberty. We are increasing liberty and promoting freedom by doing so via a very specific means, by way of the founding philosophy in the statement of principles, which was intended to be the standard by which everything is judged, not as a mere means. And keep saying we give some bylaws sites. One of the things that I wrote, by the way, in 2018 that I no longer agree with had to do with trademarks of the party. And I have since matured in my views, at least I think it's matured, where I do not view it as a mere intellectual property thing. I oppose intellectual property, but I view it as fraud, just the same as if anybody claimed to be you and act in your name. That is identity theft. That isn't that you have some kind of mystical right to the syllables that make up your name. It's that you have a right to your identity so that others aren't defrauded. Anyway, that's a whole other story. And I can be opposed to intellectual property all I want. The fact is, our bylaw says that we have certain rights. And our platform isn't against intellectual property, and plenty of libertarians are still in favor of it. The LNC cannot take stances that are strong on things such as that particular subject that the party has not spoken on. The LNC is not the party. The delegates and convention are the voice of the party. Okay. Anyway, just in case somebody brought that up, I did want to acknowledge that. So 2020 bylaws are our last bylaws. We did not have any bylaws amendments in 2022. So let's look at how these things look now. Whoops, up here. Purposes, you can see that had stayed the same. You can see the statement of principles section. It doesn't just say Article 3 platform anymore. It says Article 3 statement of principles and platform, the 7/8 vote, the philosophy. It still does say is founded. I thought it said was founded. That should probably get changed to was founded, but I'm not messing with that this time. So just to show you that this language has, in fact, stayed the same. Let me just go look at my notes to make sure I covered everything that I wanted to cover with the bylaws. Yes, I did. Okay, the rest of this is, I'm going off script. I'm going off script. Now I just want to give some just little snippets just to show how the fact that we are activists in the electoral arena, in addition to just practical electoral activities, is just woven into the warp and woof of our party. Let me give you an example. We have an activism award. So it's the Samuel Adams Activism Award, and you can see we've been giving this out since at least 1996. So it's community outreach, it's activism that has always been a part of our party, to the point of where we have an official activism award for it. Also, California at one point was comfortable calling its newsletter the California Activist. And the next thing I'm going to show you is just the cover of a publication that was promoted by the National Party. Organizing outreach and practical politics for what? Libertarian activists. Okay, let's go back to this main screen. And here's part of the reason where I think there's a disconnect with persons such as Justin Amash, as he came from the Republican Party. Major party politics are not done the same as minority politics. Minority party politics, third party politics, is guerrilla warfare. Political, peaceful warfare, but political warfare. And activism is a huge part of that. If we were one of the two major parties, then maybe I'd agree that our purpose is simply electoral politics. But right now, no, it isn't. That is not the primary purpose of any minority party. And that is just the nature of politics in this country. But historically, and per our bylaws, it is not. You can try in isolation to try to read it as some kind of priority where it's one item. That's one thing I wanted to look at. Out of 5, or because it's last on the list, there is nothing in our history that says you should hold any kind of credence to that. And I've proven what that phrase meant when the party was founded. But something I wanted to point out here. So it isn't just one item. I pointed out how it deals with movements in bullet point number 1. Here, number 2, chartering affiliate parties. Some affiliate parties are primarily activist-based. It depends upon their state leadership, which can change. So that isn't just electing people, it's chartering affiliate parties. That is something else. And supporting their growth and activities. Activities, not just their candidates. Then nominating candidates, obviously, for National Party, and the entering into public information activities. I think that is it that I had. So that's my case. I think it's reasonable, and I'm in the happy position of being in the majority of this party. I'm in the minority on a lot of things in my life, but this just doesn't happen to be one of them. I mean, I'm the type of libertarian that's usually in a minority amongst libertarians. I'm an anarchist. I'm certainly not afraid to be in the minority. But when it comes to fairly and honestly interpreting our governing documents, that is in fact what they say. By any interpretive measure, judging it in the light of what the intent was when that was put into our bylaws. Okay, that is it for this evening. This is way longer than I wanted it to be, but I needed to cover all of that, and this is one of those really inside baseball shows. But I hope you have an awesome night. I still got a couple hours of work ahead of me to do on other Libertarian Party stuff, and I got to get up at 4:30 a.m. So that is going to be it. I thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have an awesome night. Bye-bye. And this is funny. The stream didn't end. I deleted the closing screen. Well, good night.